Welcome back to Sam's Top 15 Favourite Fictional Characters. I've been putting this one off, number one because no one guessed it, and second of all because this one, I'm cheating. There are some characters you admire that are just so one-note and simple or self-explanatory that they can't exactly pad out a 6-minute video. There is nothing remarkable about Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy's Arthur Dent. In fact, that's the point. He is wholeheartedly an audience avatar and an Adams avatar. Now, I've spoken about the genius of Douglas Adams before on this channel, in fact it's one of my better videos. And I love Arthur Dent because I love Douglas Adams. The voice is what you go to with his books. You don't go to it for the plot or necessarily even the characters or relationships. You go to Hitchhiker's Guide because you know you're getting Douglas Adams' worldview on things. Although Arthur Dent is a character in his own right who has been helmed by more writers than just Adams himself, who has technically undergone character development, been exposed to some crazy shit and fell in love, embraced not only one but 2 romances. Is that enough to make a whole character? A fully formed man? I don't know. Arthur Dent is an anomaly of a character, but I love him dearly. In theory, Mr. Dent should be the embodiment of all I hate. Small-minded, middle-class British values. I'm alright, Jack. Leave me out of it. But it's that little touch of mundanity that makes him so compelling in Adams' bizarro, strange, sci-fi galaxy of weird. Every Adams character is ultimately thinking in terms of Adams' comic delivery, setup, punchline, witty remark, and observation. But Arthur is a little bit different in that he is completely deadpan. And he seems like a character who's absolutely refusing to engage with the narrative. Oh, he's forced through it, of course. But whenever this character is provided an out, he takes it. Even if it's a barren rock with no purpose or meaning, Arthur Dent has been shown that he will take it. In a series that posits the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, Arthur Dent has found his meaning. His purpose is sandwich maker, and is completely content with his mugger tea and the universe never challenging him ever again. Arthur Dent refuses the call to action. He willingly has his head in the sand. In any other story, he would be a poor protagonist. And yet, following the destruction of the Earth, Arthur Dent is thrown into the larger universe wearing nothing but his dressing gown. Helplessly launched from crisis to crisis, book to book, Dent attempts to straighten out his lifestyle, whilst also being bombarded with invasions, moral questions, ultimate questions, and love. So Long and Thanks for All the Fish is probably one of my favourite books ever written. And I've always found it strange that I gravitate towards that one specifically. It's not the famous one, it's not one with all the madness of space or moral questions. It takes place mostly on Earth. But the simple British and almost quaint love story of going back to Earth and finding your place momentarily is lovely, and it feels so much grander even than all this big sci-fi stuff. And yeah, maybe I like my unwilling protagonists to be subjected to as much sadistic punishment as possible. I have problems. Arthur Dent is the one case where I'm really happy that he found his little slice of happiness, only for the next book to then take it away. For when Arthur Dent finally returns to normality, his life is destroyed by the plot he spent 5 books trying to escape. Horrible downer ending. And I still don't know how I feel about it. Arthur Dent is a terrible hero with a terrible life and shows us how insignificant we really are. And greater still is that Hitchhiker's Guide isn't really about space at all. If sci-fi is a matter of predicting and looking forward to the future as a metaphor for today, Hitchhiker's is just completely about today. It doesn't care about the future. Matters of philosophy, politics, and religion are just laid out for Arthur Dent, sentence to sentence, step to step. In Book 2, a cow talks to Arthur Dent and raises questions of vegetarianism, and that's a moral quandary of the now. Arthur Dent doesn't want to think about the world and its bigger questions that exist right here and now. But there's also an underrated determination in that to hold on to his way of life. Arthur Dent, of course, is also one of the few remaining people of his species for a while. And it's that stubbornness and unwillingness to adapt is revealed to be part of what keeps him sane. And it's a little bit admirable. He's also the one unchanging element. This series has been met with so much adaptation, and Arthur Dent has always just stuck down like a brick in the sand. Because like all of us, our lives are ruled by chaos and disorder. And like a true Brit, I don't have to be bloody happy about it. Arthur is a brilliant, vivid mouthpiece of the late Douglas Adams. But that wasn't the only person I wanted to talk about today. I put him in the thumbnail, but I thought, hey, whilst we're cheating, whilst I've overthought this video to the nth degree, let's put in all of my favourite book characters. It's the book episode. It was a three-way tie, really. And these characters shouldn't really get their own videos because it's very hard to find visuals of characters that only exist in prose. Fuck it, I'll make thumbnails or something. Let's talk about the colourless Tsukuru Tazaki and his years of pilgrimage. Murakami's books are all tone. Very few feel like complete narratives with a set purpose, and they are more akin to bathing in atmosphere and sensuality for 300 odd pages. Colourless Tsukuru Tazaki, on the other hand, is laser focused when it comes to the plot, and that's because of its one-track minded protagonist. Tsukuru believes he is dead, that he has been wandering through life for the past decade, asleep with disconnected, dissociative self-worth so low, the only question he can ask himself is, why isn't he dead yet? And what happened all those years ago? This book, like all of his works, is sentimental, mindful, analytical, and honest, sometimes to a blunt degree. Very Japanese sensibilities, but none of his books have ever had a character that could tell a lie. Protagonists who appear to be dry, deadpan sponges, but actually know or realise that they still have the capacity to care very strongly about the world. Touches, relationships, tastes, and memories. It's a book and an author and a character who think as I do, and I really value that. Okay, so, the plot of this book. As a young man, Tsukuru's closest group of friends suddenly vanished and never contacted him again. For this, he had no clue. He was never given a reason. It was a completely abstract event in his life. For many years, this was a major complex of mine. To put it frankly, it was an abandonment issue that only really stung because of the surreal sudden enigma of it all. They could be your closest friends, your oldest friends, or your only friends, and they were, which leaves the question, what did I do? Now, okay, your childhood friends falling off the map, it's nothing, you know, it's quaint, it's small, it's to be expected and everyone has their own version of it, but it's the lack of closure that kills you. I think childhood friends demand more closure than most relationships. And Tsukuru is a mid-30s suicidal man completely defined by this event. Just a man who became less than a person and punished himself for it all the way into adulthood. That's, well, it's fucking tragic. It's a mystery book driven by nostalgia, and the need for that closure is also a mystery to regain one's self-worth. So as you can imagine, with that level of distance there, this was a pretty big deal to read. This character feels like a fragmented, weird part of a possible future of mine. He feels like I'm reading about a worst-case scenario of me, specifically. Not helped by the fact that Murakami's style already feels like it's emulating my brain. Maybe the experience of reading this book was a part of my own coming to terms with it. But maybe not. Long time ago. Regardless, it's very hard to believe Tsukuru just to be another straight-faced, soulful, yearning Murakami mouthpiece. There's more here than uncomfortable over-familiarity. It's an incredibly sexual and spiritual book. Do I have worth, and does my life have a colour? He's not a character I particularly wanted to talk about out loud, but there's no version of this list that doesn't have him in it. He's the reason that my favourite book is my favourite book. And yeah, this is my favourite book. And last of all, let's talk about Darren Shan, Cirque de Freaks, The Sagas, Curtis Mount. Vampire, diplomat, pretty boy, absolutely spoilers on this one. Please click off the video if you intend to ever read this series, and please do. They're amazing. I have significantly less to say about Curtis Schmaltz, one of the founding examples of tricky pseudo-villain femboys that would go on to later define me. The idea that this culture of brute bastards produced a member actually capable of considering diplomacy for like 5 seconds is insane. What do you think, Darren? They're not very big biceps. Right, compared to the other princes, I'm a slight little wisp. The princes have always been the biggest, toughest, bravest vampires. I'm the first to be nominated because of this. Peaceful coexistence with the Vampanese, that's the reason I will become a vampire prince. whilst the rest of the bloody bastard Viking pyro-vampires in the mountain are drinking and fighting, Kurta's playing Game of Thrones. Protecting a vulnerable people is a motivation and a threat that's so striking, it never really leaves you, even to the end of the series. Kurta dies at the midpoint of the books, but still imperative to the larger story in terms of impact. I love how eager this character is to convince Darren that these people are barbaric and awful. Supposedly the good guys. There are alarm bells all over Kurta, and yet it still comes a massive twist when he turns out to be a literal backstabber. But I like him trying to get other people to his side. He's charismatic, and he doesn't want Darren to get corrupted by them. It almost seems like he just wants Darren to see clearly and think independently, even if it's not on the side he wants him to be. A morally responsible villain. Favourite moment, cause he has a lot. The moment he's outed by Darren, he just accepts the charges completely, showing more nobility than most of the people in that court. And when some of the more talented fighters start trying to grandstand and insult him, he rises to that challenge. Kurta, dainty little pretty boy, accidentally defeats the most talented fighter. Did I do that? Kurta doesn't need to be defined by violence or honour because honestly he's too good for them. Like any vampire, there's loads of great lore too. In the trenches of World War II, guess who's doing medical work? Predicts the ending of the series. And Kurta gave his people every chance. Of course he turned on them. Kurta is a traitor with all the right reasons. His defeat and execution isn't just tragic, but revealing, putting the good guys to shame. Something I think stays with Darren so much that it leads to the actual ending of the series. And the fact that he's in more of these books than you realise just seems to confirm that. Brains and force together with the free-thinking independence to see the vampire's honour as a tool of their imprisonment. Thank you for watching. This one was a complete cheat, but it was better that way. This is Next Times. Take your guesses now.